What if pain isn't the problem, but actually the pathway back to you? You're listening to The Leadership Wound, From Pain to Permission. I'm Amanda Rohr, your host and founder of Authentically You, coaching for embodied spiritual living and leading. This is where we get honest about the real cost of leadership, the burnout, the pretending, the rejection, and the return to your authentic self. Because this isn't about performance, it's about permission. Welcome to the leader you've always been.
Jesus said, "Come follow me." He didn't say, "Come impress me." And I think that invitation still stands today. Through his voice and also through the voice of others who reflect his heart, we are called first to follow and let our leading and living be a byproduct of that. Welcome to The Leadership Wound. I'm Amanda Rohr, your host for today's episode and founder of Authentically You, coaching for spiritually embodied living and leading. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're launching a brand new series called Follow First: How Authentic Leaders Are Formed. Recently I preached at a friend's church, and that message was the seedbed for this series. As I created it, I began to ask myself, and maybe you can too, who are the best leaders that you know? Where did they begin? What was their starting point? I bet your answers are similar to mine. They didn't start on a platform. They started in proximity to someone else. They watched someone else live it first. They followed first. And so did I. And so did you, even if you didn't realize it. We live in a world that's obsessed with leading. There's leadership books, leadership podcasts, excluding mine, of course, leadership pipelines. But you know what's often missing from the conversation? Who are you following? And how has that shaped who you've become? Because none of us start with clarity, confidence, or vision. We start by watching. We start by listening and mirroring. We follow first. Before we ever lead a team or a vision or a ministry, we're shaped by the people who came before us. Sometimes that shaping is beautiful and sometimes it's painful, but it forms us. So let's pause right here and ask, who did you follow first? What faces come to mind when I say that? Maybe it was a parent or a pastor, a mentor, maybe even a coach, a boss or a leader that you admired from afar. Who showed you how to show up in the world? Now, you know this podcast is rooted in both leadership and spiritual life, and so it's probably not a surprise to hear me say that I believe that the most transformational leadership begins first by following Jesus. And I also believe there are people in our lives who model something of his character, maybe even without knowing it. Maybe it was someone who led with courage and not control. Maybe it was someone who listened more than they talked. Or someone who created room for your voice when others shut it down. Or maybe it was someone who admitted their mistakes, showed up with vulnerability, or quietly served behind the scenes. Jesus said, "Come follow me." He didn't say, "Come impress me." And I think that invitation still stands today. Through his voice and also through the voice of others who reflect his heart, we are called first to follow and let our leading and living be a byproduct of that. One of the dangers I've seen, especially in fast-paced leadership cultures, is that we skip the formative season of following. We confuse charisma with calling. We try to lead without being first led. We start influencing and guiding others before we've let ourselves be shaped. And that isn't just a young leader issue. This happens at every level of leadership. When we lead without formation, we often burn out trying to prove something. We lead from old wounds we've never named or processed. Or we mimic people who appeared successfully on the surface, but were leading from misalignment. The truth is, you can't lead others toward alignment if you haven't practiced it yourself first. Leading begins with following. That's why I want to reframe something for us today. Leadership isn't about expertise. It's about alignment. And alignment starts with proximity. Proximity to people who live what they teach. Proximity to the presence of God. And proximity to your true self, not the performative one. I'll be honest, in my 25 years of leadership experience, I've made some mistakes. But some of the most painful leadership moments didn't come from failure. They came from trying to lead without truly following, without the intimacy of knowing who I am and who God is. I thought I had to figure it out on my own, prove that I was worthy of a position rather than embodying who I already was. I didn't prioritize proximity to the real source of my living and leading. I forgot the simplicity of listening, of resting, of actually just being present with God and others who could lead me well. While I was prioritizing the voice of others who saw me not as I was, I got off track. I confused productivity and trying to persuade others with my true purpose. I was living from external validation, following the loudest voices. It wasn't until I re-centered myself in intimacy with God and in relationship with mentors who were living the kind of life that I wanted to live that I remembered. Follow first, Amanda, even when you're the one people are looking to, even when you carry the vision. Even when others call you leader, follow first. Be an apprentice, a disciple, a follower of the one and ones you want to emulate. Jesus never did or said anything that he didn't first hear or see from the Father. He followed in his Father's footsteps. His intimacy with the Holy Trinity is what kept him from looking elsewhere, from looking externally for validation. And maybe that's the reminder that we need today also. Let's pause together right now and take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you can and ask yourself, who am I following right now? Whose dust is getting on my feet because I'm following so closely behind them? Are they someone I trust? Not just with their results, but with their rhythm and who they truly are? Am I staying close to the presence of God or just the presence of outcomes? Am I letting myself be led or am I trying to control everything on my own? Let those questions settle in for a moment. And if they're stirring something in you, that's okay. That's where growth begins, within the uncomfortableness, within the tension of the not yet, but I really want it to be. And don't worry about what others think of you. They don't know it yet, but they will. You know who you are, even though they don't see it yet. Think about the leaders you've trusted most. At some point in their life, they had a day of reckoning where they had to begin to believe who God says they were more than what the outside people were saying. Those leaders that you admire, those that you follow, I'm willing to bet they weren't perfect, but they were real. They followed something deeper than ego or applause. Maybe it was their spiritual life. Maybe it was their mentor or coach. Maybe it was the way they carried peace into every room, not because they knew the plan, but because they knew the one leading them. That's what this whole series is about, because the leaders we trust most, they didn't just read the books. They watched someone live it out. They watched someone who was embodying who they wanted to be. They followed first. Over the next 3 episodes, here's what we're going to explore together. The next episode is, who are you really following? And is it helping? We'll name the unspoken influences that shape us, both helpful and harmful. And then we'll talk about the difference between chasing platforms and following the presence, and what that means in a noisy world. And finally, I'll teach you the way of metanoia, a rhythm of pause, return, and embodiment that helps you align again and again as you lead from your true self. And speaking of that, the way of metanoia is a signature coaching path I just created. A simple yet powerful rhythm of transformation that walks you through 3 movements: pause, return, and embody. It's a gentle but effective structure for helping you renew your thoughts, realign with the truth, and take small embodied steps towards sustainable change. Because the real transformation, it doesn't come from more motivation. It comes from alignment, small steps in the right direction, aligned action with who you are and the direction that you want to go. I'll share more about this in the series to come, but if you're already curious, you can learn more on my website. Speaking of my website, you may have noticed I recently changed the name of my website to include the scope of all I'm doing within the realm of authentic leadership. You can now find me at authenticleadershipcollective.com. This new name reflects not just my coaching work, but also a growing community called the Authentic Leadership Collective. It's a gathering space for leaders who want to live and lead with intention, clarity, courage, and deep spiritual alignment. It's an in-person invitation only now, but if you're curious, head over to my website to explore more about it and get on the wait list. While you're there, you can also book a free 30-minute growth plan consult. It's a beautiful way to pause, reflect, and map out a tangible plan for moving forward in alignment with who you really are. I'd love the chance to walk side by side with you in this transformation. And don't forget to download the free morning meditation when you get on my website. It's one of my favorite tools to help you start the day grounded and clear. Thanks again for tuning in to the Leadership Wound podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I'm excited to continue this journey with you. If you know a friend or a colleague or a team member that could benefit from this, share this podcast episode. And if you're ready to stop performing and start leading authentically, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. You can also follow all that I'm doing on Instagram, Facebook, and on my website, authenticleadershipcollective.com, for more inspiration and resources. Until next time, lead like you.